like cookies with jam in them. You keep jam in the fridge except for when you put it in a cookie, and I don't want to eat shelf-staple jam. Hi, I'm Hannah Kaiser, and this is The Bandwagon. Last week, I was a fan of the Yankees. That was a pretty good choice. Turns out people have some strong opinions about the Yankees on the internet. They took 2 of 3 from the Rays, so now they're only a half game back from a team that shouldn't even be in contention. Clint Frazier put cats on his cleats for Mother's Day, or rather his mother's cats on his cleats for Mother's Day. So I guess it runs in the family. His own cat was probably pretty offended if he kept track of those things.
No more cat talk.
For anyone who's a little bit uncomfortable with hopping on the bandwagon of a team that jumped into contention while you weren't even paying attention, we're doing something a little bit different this week, and I'm bandwagoning the Reds! If you don't know anything about the Reds, it's probably because they are a last place team that plays in Cincinnati, a city that is famous for ruining both chili and pasta, even though they're actually home to a wildly underrated breakfast meat, but we'll get to that. Look a little closer, however, and you'll notice that they actually have a better run differential than plenty of teams with winning records, in large part because they've given up the fewest number of runs by any team in the National League. Which is why you should consider the Reds the most interesting last place team with some sneaky good aspects that might actually mean they're not at the bottom of the pack for too much longer, plus Puig. The Cuban outfielder is out of the spotlight a little bit after leaving LA this year, and yet he is still doing things like daring himself to dye his hair blonde and then following through on that dare that he dared himself to do.
Are we calling it a mohawk?
It is a mohawk. He shaved the sides of his head. Hair in the middle, that's a mohawk. Making himself the face of a brawl that has nothing to do with him, and then putting that face on a shirt and wearing it, and shaking his ass tauntingly before taking the opposing pitcher yard. They also got Joey Votto. He's been posting MVP-adjacent seasons for a team that hasn't won a playoff series during his career since 2007. He and Jesse Winker are both good players, okay, fine, mostly Votto, who also don't mind playing the heel on the road. If you've seen Jesse Winker, he waved goodbye to Mets fans after making an incredible catch, and Joey Votto has a long history, like several years long, of pretending to throw a foul ball to fans and then taking it away again, which is just the perfect ongoing troll. It has nothing to do with any sort of rivalry or whatever. He's just being a dick to people who paid to be there. So the lineup is fun, but to be honest, they had the lowest batting average in baseball, and if the team turns it around this season or next, it'll be because Luis Castillo is a bona fide Cy Young contender, which is wild considering the Giants once traded him for Casey McGee and the Marlins traded him away. Exactly, and the Marlins once traded him away twice. They're also incredibly jacked if you're into that kind of thing. Michael Lorenzen and Derek Dietrich are 2 of the most jacked men in baseball. Dietrich also wears eye black like face paint and isn't afraid of cosplay, if you're into that sort of thing. Let's just hold on some pictures of Derek Dietrich for a few seconds, actually.
Pause.
Cool. Lorenzen is a relief pitcher who sometimes plays the outfield and is trying to batting practice his way into being a legitimate two-way player. It's kind of a small market Shohei Ohtani without the all-star skill level. He is also a man whose face looks like this, and whose arms look like a Facebook Photoshop fail by some incel trying to get laid.
That was a joke.
So now I've convinced you, you are the Reds' biggest fan. In order to see them, though, you will have to go to Cincinnati. Not a lot to do there. It is, however, home to something called goetta, a breakfast meat mush that is definitely better than Skyline chili, and frankly, even better than bacon, if you ask me. Goetta! I'm a fan! Speaking of, let's do fan, not a fan.
Trash talk through the press.
Trash talk to the press. Are we talking about Madison Bumgarner's fantastic quote? Okay, so we mentioned Yasiel Puig. Not just fun, also getting a lot better. He stole a bunch of bases this weekend. He also hit some home runs, including one off Madison Bumgarner. They have a rivalry going back to when Puig was on the Dodgers. And then Madison Bumgarner took to the press to be like, oh, I'm really proud of him. He finally learned how to hit that pitch. It only took him 7 years. Madison Bumgarner's getting kind of grumpy now that he's on a bad team. And so in general, I think I'm fine with players giving spicy quotes to the press. It gives me something to do. But I'm kind of not a fan of this. Madison Bumgarner is much more fun when he's actually winning.
Fans keeping historic homer balls.
Okay, so for his 2000th RBI, Albert Pujols hit a home run because that's what everyone is doing this year. And the fan who caught the home run didn't give it back to him. He wouldn't trade it for any amount of signed Albert Pujols gear. I'm a fan of this. If you go to the game, you catch a ball, that's your ball, man. If Albert Pujols gets the ball, he's gonna put it in a little plastic box, he's gonna put it on his shelf. It's not gonna mean nearly as much to him as any of the other awards that he's probably won. And instead, this guy has it, and it's probably the coolest thing he'll ever own.
That's kind of sad. Stealing Twitter accounts.
This weekend was Mother's Day. And so the Padres sort of like, they were like, I'm gonna do a cute thing. And they made the Padres on Twitter. Nope, not doing that part again. You can watch it back as many times as you want on tape. Sort of like, they were like, I'm gonna do a cute thing. But that frees up Padres for somebody else to take, which very quickly they did because everyone on the internet has gotten way too smart and way too cynical, and then they had to buy it back. Also a fan of this. If huge corporations up and leave like valuable property unattended for any amount of time, by all means swoop in. Wish I had thought of it.
Fantasy baseball.
I'm not really a fan of fantasy baseball. I feel like we shouldn't say that on Yahoo.
Yahoo Sports.
Please play fantasy baseball at Yahoo Sports. I will not be there, but you should.
Intentionally ugly shoes.
I'm a huge fan of intentionally ugly shoes. There you go. See, these are my new shoes. They're hideous and I love them. There's no good reason. They're hideous, but I love them.
Chest hair.
Roll the picture of Derek Dietrich again. This photo is almost perfect. He looks like literally Superman in these Reds throwback jerseys. However, not enough chest hair. Huge fan of chest hair. Don't manscape. Show us your chest! You know, this is what happens when you pick a small market team. You gotta get the viewers somehow. If Major League Baseball wants to address their precipitously plummeting attendance numbers, which are even worse through the first month and a half of this year than they were when everyone started panicking last season, they should make ticket prices cheaper.
Yeah.
That's it! That's the whole segment. Okay, fine. I don't think anyone needs convincing, but there is just a quick note. There's a strain of smugly cynical supposed business savvy that says owners don't care about attendance these days because the bulk of their money comes from things like TV rights deals and revenue sharing. But okay, great. If you don't need ticket sales to fund your baseball team or to bolster your bank account, then why not make the games more accessible to people for whom that extra $50 per seat represents the barrier to entry? Besides, they're still gonna get gouged on the beer prices once you get them in the door anyway. So to quickly wrap things up, this week, you should be a fan of the Cincinnati Reds, which has one of the most jacked lineups in baseball and some actually good pitchers. While you're in Cincinnati checking out a Reds game, also get some Goetta. I am a huge fan of things like chest hair. Look into it, Derek Dietrich. I think it's totally fine that the fan who caught Albert Pujols' ball didn't give it back. I think it's even better that the fans jumped on the Padres Twitter account when the Padres themselves left it unattended for too long. I'm not a fan of fantasy baseball, but don't tell my bosses. Baseball tickets are way too expensive and they should make it cheaper. Check out what the Twins have done. $5 tickets really move some seats.